You are drifting in a sea without waves. Above you, below you, around you darkness, but not the kind that frightens or hides. This darkness is ancient, velvet soft, full of promise. It is the darkness before the first breath, before the first word, before the first spark. It holds no urgency, no time, no sound, only space, only waiting. You do not fall. You float. There is no ground beneath you, no sky above. You are not lost, you are simply here, suspended in a cradle so vast it cannot be measured. You feel the stillness not just outside, but inside your chest. Your breath, your heartbeat, even your thoughts slow down, becoming part of this cosmic pause. This is the early universe, long before stars, long before planets, long before light found its way through the dark. A place where temperature is almost nothing and silence is everything. Here, time stretches like a sleeping cat, lazy, long, and unconcerned. All around you is hydrogen and helium, the simplest of elements, drifting like fine mist across unimaginable distances. These are the first whispers of matter particles born from the Big Bang, still echoing from a moment too bright to remember. They spread like soft breath on a window pane, quiet and endless. But even in this deep calm, something stirs. Not loud, not fast. A subtle tension, like the hush before rain or the tightness in the air before music begins. Gravity, that gentle sculptor, begins its invisible work. It does not shout. It does not rush. It simply gathers dot in one part of the sky. Though direction means little here, a wisp of gas thickens just slightly. It is not yet a star, not yet a dream of a star, but it leans toward becoming. You drift closer. You can't see movement, but you feel it. A quiet shift, a willingness, a murmur in the fabric of nothingness. This is how everything begins. Not with fireworks, not with drums, but with a whisper. With patience, Dot, it is hard to say how long you remain here, floating with the early elements, watching them slowly lean together. Minutes? Millennia? The universe, still young, has no clocks. There are no planets to orbit suns, no moons to cast shadows, no tides to count. Time is not measured here. It is felt. Like warmth returning to cold hands, the gas continues to collect, pulled inward by gravity's soft insistence. And as it gathers, it thickens. You watch it darken slightly, as though the fabric of space were folding in on itself, making room for something more. There is no light yet, but you sense a center forming. This center hums, not with sound, but with potential. It is a promise, not yet kept, a seed still buried in the soil of space. It reminds you of a single candle held in a vast, empty cathedral, unlit, unseen, but waiting. The gas clouds you float through feel like dreams half remembered. Wisps of hydrogen pass through you like cool breath, swirling in no particular direction, until the slow tug of gravity begins to shape them. Slowly, gently, the shapeless begins to find shape. You drift deeper into the center of the gathering cloud, where the density rises just enough that the air, or what counts for air here, feels thicker, like fog. You can almost imagine the first touch of pressure, the first touch of warmth, pressing inward. The kind of warmth that doesn't burn, but welcomes. Somewhere within this cocoon of gas, invisible to your eyes, atoms begin to nudge closer, closer, collisions so soft they would seem like sighs. Yet each one builds towards something more. Each tiny nudge carries the memory of the Big Bang, the original heat, the original push outward, and now, in this moment, a gentle pull inward. You cannot see stars yet. You cannot even see outlines. But you can feel it coming. A pulse, a breath, the gathering of ingredients. This is the pause between inhale and exhale. The weightless second before the sun crests the horizon. The silence before a story begins. The universe is not rushing, because Birth, true birth, takes time. You watch particles swirl, slow as sleep, patient as mountains forming. They are not alone. Billions of such clouds stir across the darkness. But for now, you are here with this one. This single breath of gas and dust, slowly curling in on itself like a cat preparing to dream. It is not lonely. It is not sad. Darkness is not empty. It is full of what could be. Above you, if there were such a thing as above, the faintest ripple of ancient light flickers past. Not light from stars, but from the earliest moment, the afterglow of the Big Bang itself, still drifting across the cosmos like a lullaby. You close your eyes and listen, not with your ears, but with your whole being. The lullaby says, you were once part of this too. Every breath you take, every bone in your body, every spark behind your thoughts was once part of these quiet atoms, waiting here, unformed. You are not a visitor in this story. You are its continuation. And so you float, held in the hush of the beginning. You are not watching the birth of the universe. You're feeling it. The dark isn't silent anymore. It hums gently, like a deep cello beneath a dream. The gas cloud continues to contract, a little more, a little tighter. Somewhere, deep within, pressure mounts. Not fast, not loud, but steadily. The first whispers of heat curl up from the center of the cloud. You can almost feel it, like placing your hand above a stone warmed by the sun. Not hot, just a live dot, still no light. Still no flame, just a hint. Just a tremble. This is the moment before stars. The hush before the orchestra breathes in. The pregnant pause between nothing and everything. And in the middle of that pause, you are there, floating, listening, becoming part of what will come. Soon the gas will tighten. Soon the center will glow. But not yet. Not now. First comes the dark. First comes the waiting. And then something begins to move. A cloud begins to dream of becoming. You open your eyes, if eyes can be opened here, and find yourself adrift in color. Not bright, not harsh, but soft hues that ripple through the yole. Black like silk pulled through water. This is a nebula, a cradle for stars, a cathedral of silence. It is not one color, but many roses and violets, embers and ashes, gold dust caught in eternal twilight. You float in it now, part of it, wrapped gently in strands of molecular hydrogen and helium, cold to the touch, colder than anything you've ever known. Yet not empty, never empty. This cloud is full with matter, with memory, with the possibility of becoming. Nebula. The word itself feels like a whisper, a breath between syllables. It comes from the Latin for mist or cloud. And that's what this is, an immense, cosmic cloud stretching across light years. Delicate as gauze, heavy with potential. Each speck of dust around you, smaller than the width of a human hair, holds within it the atoms forged in the death of ancient stars. Iron from a supernova, carbon from a collapsing red giant, oxygen from a distant, vanished sun. These grains are not new. They are older than Earth, older than memory, and yet they are ready to become new again. A nebula does not rush. It drifts, it breathes. Its edges are torn and stretched, like feathers scattered across space. You move slowly through it, as though swimming through time itself. You feel the dust brushing past, some of it clinging to you, some of it simply continuing on. You are small here, and yet entirely at home. Then, somewhere deep in the center, something stirs. Not a shout, not a flash, just a soft folding inward. Gravity begins its slow, invisible work. It moves with the patience of glaciers, the certainty of tides. It does not push, it gathers. Tiny particles begin to drift toward one another, a slow dance. Dust joins dust. Gas folds into gas. Not all at once, just here. In this pocket, this gentle ripple in the field. The cloud begins to collapse. But it doesn't look like falling. It looks like listening. Like turning towards something you've been waiting to hear. You drift closer to the collapsing region, and the light begins to shift. What was once scattered and soft now thickens. The mist becomes denser, folds over itself. The colors dim. The darkness grows richer, as though soaked in velvet. You are entering a nursery, now one where stars, not children, are about to be born. God, it is quiet, but not silent. Deep inside, you hear the rhythm of pressure building. Not a sound you hear with your ears, but one you feel in your bones. The particles are beginning to move more quickly. The temperature begins to rise, just barely. You can feel it like a pulse. Everywhere, small fragments are pulled inward, drawn into filaments, streams and knots, like raindrops pulled into rivers. The cloud is beginning to organize itself. Structure begins to emerge from the chaos. What once was drifting now begins to spiral, gently, tenderly. And then a question arises, not spoken aloud, but sensed within. What decides which part of the cloud will collapse? And which part will remain? Gravity answers softly. Density. Where the particles gather most closely, they pull harder, draw more in. These denser regions become seeds. Protostars waiting to ignite. You drift beside one of them. It is still dim, still cold, but it has grown heavier at its heart. The gas presses inward, compressing the center. Each molecule that joins adds its weight to the core. The temperature rises further slowly, steadily. Like the warmth of hands clasped together in winter, the pressure builds. The cloud begins to glow, not with visible light, but with infrared soft. Waves of heat, invisible to your eyes, but felt deeply in your skin. You watch this single region deepen, darken, warm. Like watching a breath being held. You want to reach out and touch it. To see if it's real. To know how something so massive can be so delicate. But then you realize you are touching it. You are part of it. Every molecule of your being was once like this. Dust, drifting, waiting, becoming dot, and now, all around you, the nebula breathes. Other regions begin their own quiet collapses. Gravity moves through the cloud like a lullaby played in slow motion, guiding matter into the arms of itself. You float past long filaments of gas, threads that twist like strands of hair caught in a breeze. You drift through knots where dust thickens, where pressure mounts. You pass by other forming stars, their cores hidden, their births still secret. This cloud is a nursery, yes, but it is also a graveyard. The elements that form these new stars and planets were born in death, in the violence of supernova, in the collapse of massive giants. The nebula holds that memory, soft and sacred. Life and death folding into one another in an endless cycle. And as you drift in this place, between what was and what will be, you feel that truth settle into you. Nothing is lost. Everything becomes. The dust clings gently to you now. The gas presses more firmly. You feel the temperature rising just slightly, just enough. The pull of gravity stronger now, like a heartbeat quickening in sleep. You are part of this moment, part of this collapse, part of this dream, and somewhere, deep in the heart of this cloud, a spark is waiting. Not fire, not light, not yet, but promise. Always promise, Dot, and as you drift, held in that warm hush, you sense it. The cloud is no longer simply dreaming, Dot, it is preparing to wake. You drift closer now, drawn inward, slowly, softly, toward the heart of the collapsing cloud. The nebula that once stretched like mist across the stars now feels denser, more focused. Its boundaries no longer drift apart like sleepy sighs. They fold inward, like hands clasped around something fragile and rising. Gravity is no longer a whisper. It is a hum, not loud, but present, steady. You feel it in the silence, in the weight of the gas against itself, in the way every particle leans toward the center. It is not a force you see, but you sense its kindness, its determination. Gravity is the artist here, and its canvas is infinite. All around you, hydrogen atoms drift closer to one another, no longer content to float alone. They gather in small families, then larger ones, tugged together by the promise of unity. It's like a reunion, as if long-separated travelers are being drawn back to a central fire. No one rushes, no one shouts, but the gathering cannot be stopped. And as they come together, the temperature begins to rise. At first, it is subtle, like the memory of warmth, like sunlight through closed eyelids. Then gradually, like a hand hovering near a flame, the heat begins to spread deeper at the center, gentler at the edges. This warmth is not caused by light or electricity. It is born from compression. Every atom pulled inward is squeezed just a little tighter. And in that squeeze, energy is released, heat made not from fire, but from pressure. Like the warmth that spreads through your hands when you clasp them tightly together. You float into this growing core, and the gas wraps around you like a weighted blanket, thick, heavy, comforting. You are not outside this story, you are inside it now. Inside a protostar, a star in its very earliest stage of becoming not. It doesn't look like a star yet. There's no blazing light, no golden flare. But something inside is stirring. Something persistent, quiet, and patient. The gas continues to fall inward, and you begin to sense layers forming, shells of material slowly circling the center, as if nesting together. Gravity tightens its embrace with each layer, pulling everything closer, warmer, tighter. You drift deeper, past the swirls of infalling gas, into the very heart. Here, the temperature is nearing several thousand degrees. Still not enough to trigger fusion, but enough to change the rhythm of movement. Particles no longer drift, they rush, bounce, collide. The cloud is no longer just folding in. It is beginning to churn. This is where the heartbeat of a future star begins. You pause here, at the threshold. The pressure surrounds you, not as forceful confinement, but as presence, like standing at the bottom of the deep ocean, water resting gently against every inch of you. Except this ocean is made of stardust and gas, and it is alive with motion. The atoms here do not know what they will become, but they lean toward it. They vibrate faster, rush more often, eager in their stillness. Above you, if such direction, matter's a slow rotation begins. Gravity not only pulls but spins. The collapsing cloud can't help it. As particles fall inward, their spiral quickens, like water circling a drain. It's not chaos, it's a dance, a cosmic pirouette. The more the cloud collapses, the faster it spins. It flattens, stretches, pulls into a disk. In its center, your growing protostar. Around it, the seeds of future planets waiting to take shape. But that's still to come. For now, we are inside the fire that has not yet caught. You watch as the core grows more compact, each breath of matter adding weight. The pressure builds, and with it, the temperature rises. Higher now, 10,000 degrees. Climbing, the star is not burning yet, but it is preparing. This stage is invisible to the naked eye. No light escapes. But inside, the warmth glows in infrared, a soft heat that spreads like a lullaby across the gas. You imagine it like a song played on the strings of space-time, humming softly through the forming shell. You wonder, how many stars are like this right now, growing silently in the cradles of distant galaxies? How many suns wait to rise? How many planets wait to circle them? Your thoughts drift with the warmth, and for a moment You forget time. You simply feel the pressure, the pull, the promise. This protostar is not unlike a heartbeat forming in the womb. It will not shine for millions of years, but its pulse is steady. You feel it like a quiet drum beneath your skin. The gas around you grows more agitated. Not turbulent, not angry, just alive. Atoms collide faster. The density increases. You feel the future pressing against the present. A future where hydrogen atoms will smash together to form helium, releasing light and heat that will travel across solar systems. Warm planets can grow forests. But not yet. For now, the warmth is still gathering. The pressure is still rising. The star is still sleeping dot, and you are here to witness the weight of patience all around. The gas disk begins to stretch further, thinning at the edges, drawing lines of motion that ripple outward like slow-moving rings on a pond. These rings will one day become planets, but they too are waiting. Everything here is moving, and yet nothing is rushed. Not one atom hurries. Not one moment is wasted. Not it reminds you of your own life. How the deepest changes often begin not in loud declarations, but in quiet warmth, in gravity, in pressure, in a slow, steady becoming. You rest inside the heart of the cloud, and it rests around you. No edges, no alarms, just warmth, and waiting dot, and then very faintly, you feel something shift, a rising, a pressure that presses back. The warmth that once simply grew begins to glow dot, and somewhere deep in that invisible center, the first breath of fusion prepares to form. There is a moment, so subtle it's almost missed, when motion becomes memory. Not just falling, not just collapsing, but turning. A quiet spiral, a rhythm. You feel it now, deep within the heart of the gas cloud. Something has shifted. Not the weight, not the heat, but the pattern. The cloud, once billowing in all directions, now begins to turn, not all at once, and not fast. It starts like a breath drawn in a dream, slow and deliberate. The vast mass of gas and dust, pulled inward by gravity, carries with it an ancient inheritance, a trace of spin from the time. Before time dot, it doesn't matter that this cloud is vast, spanning light years across. It doesn't matter that its beginning was chaos. The spin is there, faint but faithful. And as the cloud contracts, that spin intensifies. You've seen this before. A figure skater, arms outstretched, begins to spin. Then gently she pulls her arms in, and she spins faster. The universe follows the same rule. It always has. Now the gas around you begins to organize. What was once a shapeless collection of dust begins to flatten. A disk forms, thin at the edges, thick at the center. You are no longer in a sphere. You are in a swirl dot. It happens slowly but elegantly. The baby star at the center still, a protostar. Not yet burning with fusion draws gas toward it, and that gas spins around in a circle, unable to fall straight in. It wants to collapse, but it also wants to keep turning. The result? A spiral of motion. A cosmic compromise. You drift inside this growing disk. It stretches wide, like a record suspended in space. All around you, particles move with intention now. There's still randomness, yes, still a fog of floating matter. But you begin to sense Lane's paths of rotation forming. Dust begins to line up like dancers moving into place. This is the beginning of order. The moment when wild becomes woven. The rotation isn't perfect. It wobbles, it weaves, but the structure is forming. Slowly, the chaos gives way to choreography, the light. In the center is faint, but growing. Still hidden by thick clouds, the protostar pulses with warmth. You cannot see it, but you can feel its presence, like a candle flickering behind closed curtains. It is not yet shining, but it anchors the spin, Around this center, particles of gas and dust are pulled into orbits. Not circular, not yet, but looping paths that swirl and dance. Some grains collide and stick, others bounce and drift. All are swept up in the great turning. You imagine yourself as one of those grains, just a speck of dust, caught in the whirl, drawn by gravity, pushed by motion, surrounded by billions of companions. None of you knows where you're going, but you are going together. This disk still, in its infancy, will one day be called a protoplanetary disk, the birthplace of planets. But right now, it is simply movement, a great circle learning its own rhythm. You drift near the outer edges now, where gas is thinner and the pull is gentler. Here, rotation is slower. Time seems to stretch dust grains. Here are colder, quieter. They do not yet know if they will become moons or planets or rings. But they drift with purpose. The inner regions spin more quickly. You move closer, feeling the acceleration. There's a hum in the motion, a soundless pulse that vibrates through the dust. Here, you witness collisions, tiny ones. Dust meeting dust, soft bumps, gentle taps, but each one is a decision. To stay, to stick, to grow. The disk is not flat. Like a sheet of paper, it's puffed in the middle, thick where the gravity is strongest, thinning out toward the edges. It swells like dough rising, alive with potential. You notice spirals forming in the dust-delicate arms that curl outward, carved by unseen forces. Perhaps the beginnings of planetary paths. Perhaps the whisper of future orbits. The colors are muted here. Soft golds and silvers, flecks of iron and ice. Everything glows faintly, as if lit from within. You drift through it slowly, like a swimmer, moving through smoke. The particles part around you, then close again, reshaping with every breath. This spinning disk is no longer simply a cloud. It has direction, it has form. It is the first architecture of a solar system, and the longer you float, the more you sense its order. The chaos that once filled this place is becoming memory. In its place. Movement, yes, but movement with meaning. There is no rush here. Planets will not form tonight. Moons will not be born before dawn. But the music has begun, and you, drifting here in silence, are one with its rhythm. The turning of the disk is not loud. It is not even heard, but you feel it, the steady spin. The great cosmic wheel beginning to turn. This is how planets are born, not in explosions, but in spirals. Not in fire, but in dust. And as the circle continues and the spin deepens, you sense the next step forming. A future where dust begins to cling, where fragments become pebbles, and pebbles begin to dream of becoming more. You find yourself drifting through the golden hush of the protoplanetary disk. The great spin continues, slow, elegant, eternal. Around you, particles the size of motes and ashes twist and shimmer through space, caught in the soft spiral of a forming solar system. They seem like nothing at all. Just dust, just tiny grains. They float, collide, bounce. They are light as breath, as fragile as whispers. And yet, this is where everything begins. Not in grandeur, but in gathering. You move closer to one of the grains, and you see it clearly now. A fragment of rock, smaller than a snowflake. Sharp-edged, but patient. It drifts on currents of gas, nudged gently by light and heat, until it meets another. They kiss softly, stick, and together they become something new. This is not a fast process. No one hurries here. It is the universe's slowest form of trust dust agreeing to become more. You drift through clouds of these tiny gatherings. Some are still single grains. Others are clusters millimeters across. They jostle, they roll, they tumble. Each motion brings them closer. There are no explosions, no sparks. Only collisions soft as velvet, And when two particles stick together, they create something the cosmos remembers. Not because it is large, but because it is becoming dot in the calm warmth of the disk. Temperatures vary. Closer to the protostar, the heat drives away ice, leaving behind silicates and metal. Farther out, the cold preserves frost-frozen water, methane, ammonia building blocks of distant, icy worlds. And so, the materials differ depending on where they rest in the disk. You'll notice this subtle layering as you drift across it. Rocks and metal toward the center, ices and dust farther out. Each region planting different seeds for different kinds of planets. In these layers, the pebbles begin to grow, not overnight, not in days or even centuries, but over thousands of years. Bump by bump, bond by bond, a grain meets another grain. They stick electrically, chemically. A cluster spins through the disk, brushing others. Collisions happen. Some break apart, but many more hold together. Soon, you find yourself floating beside one the size of your hand. A soft, pitted stone, uneven, unfinished. You place your hand. Near it, though, there is no hand here, not really. Only the sense of connection. And you feel its warmth. Just a little, drawn from the light of the forming star. These pebbles ride the gas like leaves in a slow-moving stream. The gas gently resists them, pushing back slightly against their fall. But gravity is patient, and the pebbles persist. Some regions begin to grow thick with them. Dense patches where collisions happen more often. You drift above one now, a cluster of small stones swirling, bumping, dancing. In this patch, something special begins. The pebbles no longer just drift. They pull on each other, however slightly. Their combined gravity tiny, but real starts to matter. You feel it in the way they clump. In the way, the spinning gas begins to swirl differently here. The pebbles are making their own space, their own little gathering. A seed. This is how planetesimals are born, but not yet. Right now, this is still the age of pebbles, small enough to be ignored, and yet powerful in their persistence. You drift beside one, and you watch as a tiny impact sticks another fragment to it. Dust layers on dust. It's not beautiful, not by ordinary eyes. But it is sacred, because every world that has ever existed, every mountain, every ocean, every breath of air, began with moments like this. With pebbles in the cosmic wind, choosing quietly, gently to stay. Far ahead, you glimpse a denser knot of material. A swirl of rocks and dust almost the size of a house. It glows faintly with absorbed warmth. Inside, gravity is beginning to find its voice. You hover nearby. You watch the slow circling of matter. It's not just drifting anymore. It's spiraling. These aren't aimless movements. This is the beginning of attraction. The gas of the disk flows around these knots, pushing gently, nudging orbits into spirals. And as the pebbles grow, they begin to settle toward the center of the disk, drawn by its gravity like sediment in a pond. This settling thickens the midplane, makes it richer with material. And in that richness, more collisions, more sticking, more becoming. You close your eyes, if eyes are still needed, and imagine what comes next. When enough pebbles clump together, when their combined mass becomes irresistible, when they pull more in, faster, harder. That's when the real building begins. But even now, in this gentle age, the seeds are sown. The rules are already in place. Patience, contact, adhesion. Gravity. You drift through the disk as the dance continues. You pass fields of pebbles, some sparkling with metal, others frosted with ice. You feel the quiet optimism of the process, the refusal to remain small forever. Each one of these pebbles holds the potential for continents, for oceans, for skies. They do not know it yet, but they are already worlds, worlds in waiting, worlds in whisper. You reach out again, not with Hands, but with thought, and you touch one. It spins slowly as it moves through the haze. You let it pass, you let them all pass. Because this part is not yours to shape, only to witness dot, and as you float above the disk, watching pebbles join hands in the vast silence, you hear the first rustling of something larger coming. The stones are gathering. They are growing heavier. They are beginning to pull more than dust. They are beginning to pull each other. You drift again, this time through thicker air. Not air as you know it, but a dense current of dust and gas, rich with particles that no longer scatter. They pull now. They gather. They whisper not of what they are, but of what they are becoming. Around you, the soft rain of pebbles has begun to change. No longer just falling, no longer just bumping. They collect. They cluster. They bind. Gravity, once faint, now begins to deepen its hold dot. It starts with weight. A pebble gains enough mass to tug gently at its neighbors. Those neighbors pull more. Still, soon the center of the clump grows heavy. More than just stone, it becomes a destination. You float near one now. It tumbles slowly through the gas, not perfectly round, not smooth, irregular, dented, but large, perhaps a kilometer across, a planetesimal, a child of dust and time. This is the first body in space that could truly be called something. Not just a speck, not just a fragment, but a seed, a beginning, a silent declaration that the building of worlds has begun. You hover beside it and watch more pebbles rain down. They hit its surface gently at first, then faster, harder. Each one brings energy, heat, mass. The planetesimal doesn't resist. It accepts, absorbs, and grows. Around you, others form. Some smaller, some larger. They float through the disk like slow-moving ships in a fog. They aren't aware of each other. Not yet. But soon their paths will cross. And when they do, they'll collide. Some will shudder. Some will merge. But all will change. This is the chaos beneath the calm. The hidden violence of creation. But here, now, everything is still gentle. You are inside the first few million years of planet formation. Everything still breathes softly. You move deeper into the midplane of the disk, the dense center layer, where the solids settle. Here, collisions happen more often. Planetesimals jostle for space, for momentum, for mass. You see one, not far from you, crack, as another grazes its edge. Fragments break off, but they don't disappear. They return to the dance. They fall back into orbit, swept again into the tide of formation. Everything is recycled here. Nothing is wasted. Even destruction becomes part of growth. Some planetesimals begin to spin. A fast rotation here, a wobble there. Angular momentum, stored from the earliest motion of the disk, makes them tumble like forgotten toys. Their shapes reflect their stories, misshapen, cratered, built by a million tiny hands. You drift beside one the size of a mountain. Its surface is dusty, shadowed, lit only by the glow of the nearby protostar. It is silent, but not still. You feel vibrations deep within, heat from collisions, warmth from compression, a kind of breath. Inside, it may already be layered. A dense core, a rocky mantle. This is no longer just rubble. It is structure. You imagine its future. Perhaps it will merge with another. Perhaps it will be shattered into moons. Perhaps it will remain unchanged for billions of years, floating at the edge of a completed system, silent but ancient. A fossil in space. But for now, it is still growing, still becoming. You glide to another smaller, icy, shimmering in the outer reaches of the disk. Here, farther from the protostar, the cold preserves water, ammonia, methane. These planetesimals are not made of rock, but of frozen breath. They hold the ingredients of oceans. of clouds, of comets that will one day sail into new skies. Even now, in their stillness, they promise movement. They carry water across time, and life may follow in their wake. You float through fields of these icy bodies, each one turning slowly, held in orbit, each one gathering more dots sometimes. Two collide, and instead of destruction, there is fusion. They melt into one another, like clay pressed together. Their heat rises for a moment, and then cools again. You think about how soft the beginning of a planet is. Not explosive, not loud, just dust choosing dust. Stone finding stone. Over and over, until mass becomes identity dot, it's easy to miss the miracle. You realize, because it doesn't shout. It simply builds dot, and soon these planetesimals will grow, large enough to change everything around them. When they grow big enough, they don't just pull in dust and rock. They begin to shape space itself. They clear paths in the disk. They carve lanes through the gas dot. They become sculptors, not just stones. You see it happen in slow motion. One body, massive enough, begins to draw in a halo of material. It feeds. It orbits. It grows dot. This is how planets begin. But not yet. Tonight, you are only here for the planetesimals. The first rough drafts, the outlines. The quiet architects. You drift a little farther, where the disk is thinner again. And you see something new. A field of small planetesimals locked in co-orbit, dancing around each other in gentle spirals. Are they partners? Rivals? Ancestors of future moons? It doesn't matter. They are moving in rhythm, and that rhythm will decide what they become. Look back toward the protostar, now brighter than before, still shrouded, still incomplete, but steady. Its light brushes the edges of the disk. Its gravity holds the entire orchestra together. Dot and you who have followed the dust through, every stage, feel something change. The collisions are louder now. The bodies larger. The spaces between them tighter. The time of pebbles has ended. The time of planetesimals is reaching its peak dot, and soon, very soon, the time of planets will begin. You float once more through the deepening disk, where dust and stone have grown to shapes almost familiar. Bodies no longer mere fragments, but beginnings, the first true worlds taking form in the great silence. Around you, the dance of planetesimals accelerates. Their paths cross more often, their pulls stronger, their collisions heavier. Dot. You watch as two bodies, each hundreds of kilometers across, draw closer, their gravity bending space and time ever so slightly, until they meet not with fury, but with a slow, crushing embrace. The collision is vast, but gentle in its own way. It shatters pieces off, sure, but mostly it binds, pressing stone to stone, gathering more mass, building a body more massive than either before. This is the birth of a protoplanet, a world still rough, still scarred, but undeniably alive. Drift alongside one of these giants now, its surface mottled and cratered, a patchwork quilt of ancient impacts. It spins slowly in the dim light of the protostar, its gravity pulling gas and dust into a faint, thin atmosphere. This is a world in waiting. It does not yet shine, but it holds promise. You feel the weight of time here. Millions of years folded into every grain of rock, every shadow, every curve. Around this protoplanet, smaller bodies orbit, caught in its gravity like moths around a flame. Some will collide and merge, others will be swept away, but all contribute to the growing story. You imagine standing on its surface, if such a thing were possible, and feeling the pull of the star, the whisper of distant gas, the silent chorus of creation. The disk around you is thinning now, its gas slowly dissipating, leaving behind these scattered islands of matter, each on its own path, each its own world. Protoplanets carve gaps in the disk, their gravity shepherding dust and rock, clearing lanes, shaping the final architecture of the system. You watch as orbits stabilize, as resonances form, as a cosmic ballet unfolds with grace and precision. Some protoplanets grow faster, drawing in more mass, their gravity wells deepening, their atmospheres thickening. Others remain small, silent sentinels at the edge of the system, waiting their turn. You drift past one rich in ice, its surface shimmering with frozen oceans, a potential cradle for life yet to come. You wonder about the future, about oceans forming, about skies thickening, about the first stirrings of breath on these distant worlds. But for now, you rest in this moment of becoming, a witness to the slow dance of worlds in formation. You feel the pulse of gravity, the warmth of the growing star, the quiet promise that all this dust, rock, and gas will one day be home. And as the protoplanets spin and settle into their orbits, you sense the final stage approaching, when the last pieces fall into place, and the solar system truly comes alive. The space around you feels lighter now. The dense fog of dust and gas is thinned, revealing clearer paths, clean lanes where protoplanets once struggled for room. You drift gently among the remnants' smaller rocks, tiny pebbles, specks of ice, the last whispers of creation, circling in silent, patient orbits. They move not with haste, but with purpose. Each collision, each near miss, a soft note in the cosmic symphony. This is the dance of the final pieces, where chaos fades and order takes its first steady breath. Watch as tiny bodies meet, submerging, some shattering into dust, each encounter carving the system's shape. Around the larger worlds, these fragments cluster. They become moons, rings, debris belts, silent companions to the newborn planets. You float near a giant planet, its mass immense, its gravity a powerful conductor in this ballet. Its rings shimmer faintly, made of ice and rock, whispering stories of countless collisions past. Farther out, in the colder reaches, you see ice-rich comets, their elongated orbits slow and steady, carrying the frozen memories of the outer system. His final clearing is gentle but firm. The solar wind from the young star begins to blow away the last clouds of gas, sweeping dust into space, leaving behind a cleaner, quieter neighborhood. You feel the system breathe. Inhale the clearing. Exhale the silence. The planets have taken shape. Their moons circle faithfully. The rings spin in delicate balance. You wonder about the stories yet to be told, about the impacts that will shape surfaces, about the ice that might melt to form oceans, about atmospheres yet to thicken, and life yet to begin. For now, you rest in this quiet moment. The work of creation winding down, but the promise of new beginnings still glowing softly. You drift through this cosmic calm, feeling the pulse of a star and its family, a solar system ready to shine. And as the light from the young sun warms your spirit, you sense the final breath of the nebulous story, the moment when dust becomes world, and the universe whispers, "You are home." You have floated in darkness for so long, in warmth without flame, in gravity without glare. But now something changes. It begins deep within the heart of the protostar, a place you cannot see, but you can feel. Not with your eyes, but with your breath, your bones, your sense of motion. Here, in the densest, hottest region, hydrogen, the simplest of all elements, is pressed so tightly, so fiercely, that it cannot help but change. Two atoms become one. Hydrogen fuses into helium. And with that union comes light. It is not an explosion, not a sudden flare. It is a pulse, a quiet, rising from within. A deep, slow exhale that expands through space. This is the birth of a star. You drift just beyond the edge of the newborn sun. Its surface roils with energy, but it does not rage. It shines. Not in blinding triumph, but in steady warmth. Its light, spills softly across the system it now claims, a golden breath across dust and rock, ice and gas, worlds and rings. The sun has found its voice, and it speaks in photons. Every corner of the protoplanetary disk feels it. Rocks that once lay in cold shadow now glisten. Ices far from the center crackle, awaken, shimmer. Planets still forming bask in the glow, their surfaces kissed for the first time by sunlight. You turn toward the star, not with eyes, but with wonder. This light will travel far, beyond the disk, beyond the planets, out into interstellar space. It will touch comets, graze distant dust,